happy today, and I am taking this off. I've tried something new today, and I was 1 second off. But happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. And this is Disconnect to Connect, one word conversations. I I'm like in an interesting place today. It is, it's Friday. It's been a wonderful, impactful week of conversations and just a lot of things happening. And then there's been a lot of external things happening in the world. And so it's just trying to, for me, focus and stay focused. I hope that makes sense to you. But it's like focus on what's at hand, but then stay focused to other things that are going on. So there's a level of awareness, so you can make choices and decisions and be a part of that. So with that in mind, the it's interesting that the word of the day is together. Um, like many words, there is a love hate relationship, or is an ongoing understanding or appreciation of, and I think the word together is one of those things for me. So with that in mind, I will bring up my guest and friend.
Hello there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you? How are
I'm
you doing
doing
today?
fine. How about you?
I am doing wonderful. Now, this is
Good.
a part of the show where I ask my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable for them.
All right. Well, trying to, you talk about labels, so I'm trying to figure out which labels I should go with this time, whether it should be international mastermind or provocateur. But I'm Darren
Whatever
Jansen.
one works, right?
Okay. All right. Good. Sounds good. I'm Darren Jansen, and I was born in Illinois, and then I spent a lot of time there as a child, and then spent the rest of my time growing up in Greenville, South Carolina, and that's where I met Bill. I also spent 8 years away in China, where I lived there. I was a teacher, and that gave me an interest in international things, and also I studied public relations in school, so that gave me an interest in languages, and so it just turned out that I started working for a translation company doing marketing, and so that's the work I do. Is I do marketing for a translation company. I write a bunch of articles, come on radio shows with famous people like Mr. Brown, and so do all sorts of things related to international business and translation. So I have a wife and 2 kids. As my son, when I first came back to America, my son was talking to a Walmart employee at the auto place, and he was telling the Walmart employee, uh, he was saying, you know, we're from China, and the guy didn't reply, and my son said, my dad went to China and found us. So yeah, I went to China and found them, and so yeah, that's who I am. I'm
Kids.
Darren Jansen.
Well, that's great. That's funny. I'm sure that was an interesting response for the person. What? You
Yeah.
did what?
He, yeah,
But
he
so
was very tired of his day and not responding the whole time. But when my son said, "My dad came to China and found us," he cracked a smile. I guess that that was the thing that made his day. So,
well, that's good. Hey, so how does the word together land for you?
well, uh, you mean during social distancing?
Just in all of it. So what does that mean in the time in the era of social distancing? What does together mean?
Together is a good word for me because actually I'm an introvert, so that's something that I need to think about more. And I'm pretty. socially, I tend to be kind of passive. Like, I'll go to things when other people invite me, and so I don't make a lot of really efforts to meet with people, and that's a bad thing about my character, and that's something that I'm trying to change. And I'm realizing that togetherness with friends, with family, with coworkers, that's a really important thing. It's really a vital part of who we are. I mean, we're social creatures. We're not like ants, but we're humans. We travel in families, flocks, friendships.
Right.
So it's really a vital thing, and it's a good thing for me to think about and discuss with you. Maybe I can take some good things away from it, and also contribute some ideas.
Yeah, I think, I label myself also as an introvert. And I have been embracing that being an introvert isn't a negative part of my personality or the way that I'm showing up. It is just a way. And so I choose to find, or I get to, I'm trying to work on my language, taking the shoulds out of my life and all those other things, and must, but to what I get to. I, I get to decide what together or togetherness means for me and how it shows up with the people that I care about, the people that I want to do business with, the people that I want to get to know. And the more that I guess not just look at what I'm comfortable with or my preference of being not in isolation. I wouldn't say that I like to be in isolation, but there's a part of me that recognize that because of the way I think, and the way I see the world, I get a lot of stimulus from my surroundings. And sometimes people just like overwhelm the surrounding for me.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
don't know if you can feel that. And it's just
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, it's like, relax, settle down, and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But really being able to appreciate it all, to really be together, not just with myself and the surroundings are the things, but the people that are around, and what does that mean? And I think for me, in some cases, together shows up like the word perfect for me, and I'll explain it this way. Perfect is a concept, and for me, together is a concept. And too often we try to we make assumptions about just because there's people in the same room or the people that are in same environments, we're together. No, we're just in the same room.
Yeah.
We're just around.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of, I think with together, I think there's a lot of times where we kind of make these assumptions because of proximity that we're all on the same team, or we're all in this together, as you hear when you're going through pandemic and different occasions. And I think the more that we acknowledge that there's a number of areas that we are not together, but we're just in proximity of each other,
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
we'll be able to really define or embrace or to discover what together really means, or what together really looks like for
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
for us.
Yeah. It's like you made me think of the old joke that the disciples had a Honda because the Bible says that they were all in one accord. And
Right.
so there's there's a very
The old
big
Christian
difference.
jokes, right?
Yeah, there's a big difference between everybody being in one Honda Accord and everybody being in one, united mission in one accord. And yeah, that's really,
Right.
really. a big thing. And also that just makes me think of how annoying the word social distancing is to me. I don't know why
Right.
it's annoying to me. It just strikes me as annoying. Um, maybe I don't know if the word was physical distancing. Maybe that wouldn't annoy me.
Right.
There's no logical reason why it annoys me, but it just one
Right.
logical thing is that doesn't seem to make sense is I've actually grown closer to some people due to quarantine or social distancing, whatever it is. I've grown
Right.
socially closer to some people because
Right.
I, in the past, my excuse was, oh, I don't have time to go out to eat. Oh, it's too expensive to go out to eat. Oh, it's raining. I can't go hiking with the person. Oh, I didn't make plans. It's probably not a good time for them. But now, when
Right.
nobody can go out, nobody can go eat at a restaurant or whatever, I have no excuses for not calling them. You know, and
Right.
so in
Right. You're
this,
at home, right? You
yeah. So it's like
know?
it's more like social nearnessing and physical distancing. So yeah, that's a good point. Even if we're all together in one spot, it doesn't mean that we're really um, having togetherness. There's proximity versus true togetherness.
Right. I also, I don't say I have a problem with, but I don't buy into the social distancing kind of understanding. And I think when this first started for me, when I first heard that, I was like, dude, we've already been socially distancing from each other. I mean, you just try, in some cases, walk down the street, you can see people try to
Mm,
distance themselves
mhm.
from
Yeah, yeah.
some from each other, and so now it's like giving people permission to do it, and I think you're
Mhm,
right that the more that we're like told to or encouraged to distance ourselves, the more that we gravitate to what's important
mhm,
are our connections
mhm.
that we didn't have
Yeah.
quote unquote time for,
Mhm,
and it is just very interesting if it would have been labeled physical distancing,
mhm,
how that would have occurred to people if people
mhm,
would have done it. The one thing that I recognized during this time is that there's a lot of businesses that are basically their business model is contingent on gathering,
oh
on
yeah.
coming
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
It's like if it's a restaurant, if it's basically how we work. We work in in this togetherness, and to realize that, oh no, how we get together or how we come together or gather is is going to be changed or needs to be rethought or
Mhm,
revisited,
mhm,
and it's going to be interesting really how it lands, because I think we'll figure it out, and I think there's been reopenings and starts and
mhm,
stops and judgments and blame
mhm,
and all that other kind of stuff, and there's still a lot of fear out there. However, I really think that, like you were saying, we are a relational being. We are designed to come together. We are designed
mhm,
to be interconnected and
mhm.
kind of support each other.
Yeah.
So we're going to figure it out,
Yeah. And
and I
for
and
the
I think
record,
and go ahead.
yeah, yeah. For the record, I'm not against the concept of social distancing. That if people are getting sick, we need to be careful. But I
Right,
just maybe I don't know. Maybe it's because it's, let's see, social distancing. It's like 5 syllables. It just feels awkward to me. And also,
right,
like what I said, it's more physical distancing, not social.
right.
Um, and
Well, yeah,
but yeah, and my family has been hardcore about like actually following the concept because, as I said, I lived in China, and so
right,
we're really good at doing the whole mask thing, and like we're in our
right,
element now.
right.
So
It's I think the other thing for me is, I guess, the word social.
mm,
is, and I think that's in some cases, that's the challenge that I have on social media. I think too often when social, there's this assumption that we're socializing, we're civil, we're all the all those things that come along with social, that we're not on social media, right? That we're so it's like, wait, what the hell, you don't want to name it, a place to show your behind online, right?
Right.
I mean, it's like, you don't want to say that, right? But I mean that there is this social, my understanding of social and togetherness, and like I said, civility, that doesn't show up all the time within that. And so
Mhm.
when you add social distancing, it's like, okay, what type of social do you want us to distance from, or
Mhm.
what does that
Mhm.
mean? And if it would have been more, hey, for a time period while we're figuring out this virus and understanding how to relate to each other, we recommend that you physical distance. There's a physical distance of 6 feet, along with masks to kind of keep everybody safe. I think that's a different conversation, and
Let's see.
and I
How
think.
many syllables is that?
So let me ask you this, because you said this twice. Why is the syllables? Is it the translation? Is it the language?
No,
Why is
I
the
don't know. I think it's just
syllables
that
kind of
it's suddenly become such a popular phrase, and people use it as it's a description of an activity that, I mean, it's hard to describe it as an activity. Like, you can kick a ball, that's an activity. You can play
right?
chess, that's like an activity. But physical distance it just feels awkward to me. That's all. And then it's
Right.
the 5 syllables. Like, every time you have to talk about it, it's like, you have to pull 5 syllables out of your mouth. I don't know. It's just weird. So,
Well, look, it's like, I guess it's too harsh to just say stay back, right? To
yeah, yeah. Get away.
back up, right?
Right. Right.
It's and I think, one, we're conditioned to come together, we're designed to come together, but because of challenges, because of virus, because of things, now we're encouraged to do the opposite of that. And so it doesn't surprise me that there are a number of people who are having difficulty with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if you know Holly. Early in the first, I think the first week of doing the show, I think,
Hmm.
later on Sunday I do my 50th episode, so that's
Oh,
going to be
wow.
fun.
Great.
Um, but no, she mentioned that we were kicked off of autopilot. So it's like now
Mm.
we're called to, like, what it feels like, make decisions for our life, for our safety, daily,
Hmm.
moment by moment.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things. It's kind of interesting, going to a restaurant or just being out in public. There were certain things that I did, but then I didn't do because I became aware of. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, and this is what I mean. So if you're at a restaurant and there's a spot on the silverware, you're like, oh, geez,
Oh,
they
yeah.
didn't clean the way that, you clean it off, or you send it
Hmm.
back, or anything like that. And it's just like, hey, that's just, that's the nature of just being out. At no point did I say, hey, did somebody sneeze on this, or what's
Hmm.
going, or if they sick or anything. There was no other conversation that was happening. I don't put my hands on many rails when
Hmm.
I try to keep myself,
Yeah.
it's just, I just don't do that. I saw someone kind of sneeze and grab a rail, and
Yeah.
so I don't even think that was
Yeah.
in the past 30 years that
Hmm.
that happened. But
Yeah.
the fact, still 30 years later, you know,
And
I'm not putting my hands on that that rail,
and
type
also,
of thing.
can we get it on public record, just that public bathrooms that require you to touch a handle when you're leaving are unacceptable?
Right. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
it's
it's
got to
like,
be
so
either you
it's
push open the door with your foot, or if there's a doorknob, it's got to have a box of like a paper towel so you can open it with your. Yeah, that just bothers me. I can't stand it when I go into, you know, a public
right.
restroom and there's a
But
handle there and then there's no papers. They have
yeah,
a blow dryer. It's just like, ugh, it's terrible.
right. But there were so many things like that we almost accepted, or just kind of, it was just a part of being out in public.
Hmm.
Now that there's, the virus,
Hmm.
or, the potential of things, now we are hyper aware of, bacteria,
Hmm.
dirt, or all
Hmm.
the things in the world. and
Oh
and
yeah.
so it's, I don't want to say is it going too far, but do you think how we connect, or how we come together, is like altered forever,
I don't.
and we
I
just
don't
have to
think
come to
so.
terms with that?
I think maybe it's kind of like it's a big deal, but I think within another year or so, everything will be pretty much back to normal. Um, if the disease is pretty much handled and becomes a non-issue, yeah, I think everything will pretty much go back to normal. Um, People will, I mean, well, people still aren't washing their hands after they do their business in the restroom.
Right.
I forget, it wasn't a restaurant. It was in a grocery store, and I've got my mask on. It's like the pandemic thing, and a worker comes out of the stall and he just walks right out the door. I was like, dude.
It's like, not only was that nasty,
Yeah.
have you seen the news, right?
Yeah, right, right.
It's like,
So
it's just, it's yeah, it's just crazy. I do have a question about, because you mentioned that your time in China, you're, wearing a mask. It kind of, you kind of know what that feels like.
mhm.
Is this a society thing? Is it a cultural thing that wearing a mask, or wearing, being protected, is something that, in the United States we've taken for granted, and in other countries they kind of get it?
I think, well, in China, as far as I'm aware, it kind of started with SARS, and
Hmm.
that's when people started wearing masks. And SARS was a big deal in China, and it pretty much, I mean, they really cracked down on the disease when SARS happened. And so after SARS was over, I went to China in 2004. So I think that was, I forget when SARS was, either 2002 or three, I forget. But anyway, still in 2004, people would wear masks. And for them, it was not just a health thing. In fact, it might not have been a health thing at all anymore. It was almost like a fashion thing. Like they'd have their
Hmm.
little, you know, masks that were like fashionable. And
Hmm.
also, where I was very cold, and so it was also another way to stay warm with the little. It looked like a medical mask, but it was cloth, and so it was just sort of part of the culture there. It's like it's totally okay to do it there. Whereas in America, it's just not something people do. And my sister has some pretty serious, like nasal and what is it called? Um,
Respiratory.
it's like the holes inside of your head where you're supposed to. I forget what it's called. I can't think of it when. I'll think of it in an hour from now. But
Okay.
sinuses. Yeah, she's got some severe
Okay,
sinus
gotcha.
problems, and so she would get set off by anything, by pollen, anything, colds. And so when she went out, she would wear a face mask, and this was before this whole pandemic thing blew up. I mean, this was more
Right.
than a year ago. And she would wear this
Right.
mask at the store, and she had people come up to to her in the grocery store and tell her, "You shouldn't be out if you're sick." It's like, well,
Right.
you know, I'm first of all, I'm not sick. Second of all,
Right.
I've had this condition for years, and so I can't just stay home until I get better. But it wasn't really a socially acceptable thing in America until
Right.
recently. And
Right.
previously, if people saw you wearing a mask, they thought, "Oh, this person is sick. I need to stay away from them." And so, yeah, I think it's just sort of
Right. I think, and also, other than, what we make masks mean, is that you're either sick or you're about to rob me, right?
Right, right.
It's like we've been conditioned. Those are the two conditions. So if you either look like you're deathly ill, and that you could like give that to me,
Hmm.
or you're going to rob at any moment. You
Hmm.
can decide to rob me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so
I
we
like
we
the.
have to we have to let that go, because that's a part of coming together. So it's like that's why I've seen videos online of people fighting with someone who doesn't have a mask on,
Yeah.
and and also seeing people that ridiculing people that do have a mask on, right?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
like it's like all over the map. And
yeah.
so is it that we are trying to come together? Is it trying that we're or we just want this kind of not think about people, because I notice when you have on a mask.
Hmm.
Now I notice when you don't
Yeah,
have on a mask. Before, for the most part, there's a number of people I just didn't notice. I
yeah.
just didn't. There wasn't a connection to, and
Hmm.
so now there is this noticing, and that will basically cause me to decide if I'm going to come together, if I'm going to be united, or to kind of be with
Hmm.
someone. And it's a very it's an interesting balance,
Hmm.
to kind of really not stay in a judgment, or
Yeah,
the judgment that I had in the
yeah.
past.
I'm definitely a mask wearing kind of person. Like I always wear masks, but I think the joke is funny. Some of my friends don't like the masks, and they told a joke that I think is pretty funny. It's just they saw a sign at a store, a grocery store, that said um, something like customers must wear masks, and one of my friends said, "Well, next time I come into this store wearing a mask, I'm not gonna buy anything." Like the meaning, or I forget exactly what they said, but the meaning was, if I come in here with a mask, it's because I'm come here to rob the store. So it's just kind of a funny
Right.
thing. But yeah, I always wear the mask whenever I go out, and for me, it's just a matter of, I think, scientifically speaking, it's not a huge protection for me, but if I'm sick, it is a big protection for the people around me. So
Right.
it's just, yeah, something I do to. Nobody's forcing me to do it. I just want to do it, and I don't judge people who don't. I mean, they have their own reasons. It's uncomfortable. I'm not here to judge them. But
Right. Do you think, and because this is a question that I have for myself, is that, um, how how am I going to not see everybody as a suspect? And this is
mm,
what I mean. That I suspect that you may be sick and you don't know about it, right?
yeah,
Or you may, or this. And so with everybody as a suspect, I believe it'll be very difficult for me to come together,
mhm,
with people. I can be in, let's just say, networking events. Let's say,
mhm,
when we're able to do that, because it's over 10 people, or whatever, we're encouraged to do that again.
mhm,
That I have a mass, other people have mass, there's the togetherness, or the understanding becomes even more difficult. The loudness of a networking event versus trying to articulate behind a mask, right?
mhm.
I don't know how many times I've had to repeat myself,
Yeah,
because I have my
people don't
and it's
understand.
like, right, and it's like, dude, it's just fatigue of just like, articulating, what you want, and just like,
Mhm.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm going back home, right?
Yeah.
So it is just something that we in some cases I felt we hardly listened to each other before, and now it's with the mass or something. It's kind of making it even harder for us to understand or really have the desire to ask someone to repeat themselves or ask for clarification or because most of the times I think we don't. We just fill in the blanks. Okay,
Yeah.
this is what they
Yeah.
said, or this is what they meant to say, and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's really, if we want to come together, there has to be a conversation. There has to be a clarification. There
Yeah.
has to be these kind of, I guess, over sharing,
Yeah.
as I say, so we know what we're
Hmm.
connecting to or
Yeah.
coming together with.
Yeah. What you say about like pretending you understand, but actually you don't. That's like the story of a language learner's life, because they don't want to be a pain and make have to understand every single word the other person is speaking in another language. And also, they want to put off the impression that they understand more than they actually do, and so the pressure is just to say,
Right.
"Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
Right.
And, so you end up
Wow.
like agreeing to things you never wanted to agree to, or you ask a question and they give you an answer, and after saying okay, yeah, for like 5 minutes, then you have no idea what they said. So that's just kind of the this is a story of my life
Right.
as a language learner. But
Right.
I guess
So
I
there's
was
a there's a new language now.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
new I tell you,
yeah,
you've brought in your business, right?
yeah, that's right. I was just thinking with this whole, it seems like wearing a mask and ish or social physical distancing, it shouldn't be um, controversial. Like it seems like the most random thing to be controversial, either one way or the other. It's like it shouldn't be
Right.
controversial. So, um, in the idea of togetherness, like what can we do to as people to be more together and to have less nonsense about bickering over things?
Great. Great. I think what keeps me from really unifying or really, I don't want to say picking a team or just being have this allegiance somewhere,
Mhm, mhm,
is because there are so many teams are distracted.
mhm, mhm,
It's like what is, it's like you join a team. I'm trying not to speak to any particular labels, but let's just say you're on a baseball team.
mhm,
At the beginning of the year, the goal was to go to the championship. Sometime in the middle of the year, it's like, you know what? We're not that good. We're not going to the championship. Maybe our goal is to win 10 games, right?
mhm,
Or maybe our goal is just to win another game, right?
mhm.
Or something. And I think sometimes I feel that as soon as I join something because I come together in unity with something, the mission change, the
Mm,
goals change, the everything like that, and it's just like, yeah, I'm not for this anymore,
mhm.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that I don't want to come together with people, because I think that there is power in trying to, to work something out and talk something out and kind of, and recognize that there are sometimes things are fluid.
Mhm,
But too often it feels like there is this ambiguous, us against them,
mhm,
and then it's like the old west. You're
mhm,
either with us or against us.
mhm.
Type of thing,
Yeah.
and it's like, whoa.
Mhm.
How is that kind of creating a unity or a
Yeah.
togetherness to kind
Mm,
of really get something done? And I think it's, for me, my conversation around living beyond our labels is we are connecting or we're coming together within our humanity.
mhm,
All the other labels are our labels.
mhm.
Sometimes I'm, together with you on the other labels, but at the end of the day, the only label per se that we have fundamentally that we're together on is being a human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the more that we have a conversation within that and see how we show up as human beings and how we're together on that,
Mm-hmm.
we can go from there. And look, sadly to say for me, the coronavirus or COVID 19 and some of the racial unrest in there, it is not about coming together as human beings. It's about coming together with our labels. It is that
Mm-hmm.
is those labels are uniting together to kind of keep a way of life. And I've said in some of my writing and that's forthcoming and some in my posts that labels will defend their label. They're not going
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
defend other
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
it is like Democrats will um, defend Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans would defend Republicans.
And
And
I
it's
think,
like outside of that, then that you're talking something totally different.
and I think something that's very sad about that, and I'm talking about myself here, is that um, there was one time a very contentious issue in the news, and I thought that this viewpoint was crazy. And then one day I changed my viewpoint, and the reason I the cause of my changing my viewpoint was I read an article from someone who typically believed in me, who typically believed the same things I did. So
Right.
why was I persuaded by a person who typically agreed with me, but I was not persuaded by people who typically disagreed with me? And made me think for a long time, and it still causes me to
Mm,
think like that's first of all, it's weird because I should be
right.
persuaded by evidence, no matter who's speaking. But also, it's a little bit saddening because I should be able to find any good argument persuasive. It shouldn't matter if the person agrees with me about most things, and I think that's one just I guess just the tribalism that we find ourselves with, rather than, as you said, finding a common humanity. And
Right.
really, I don't think there's anything wrong with having teams because how could
Right.
BMW here in Spartanburg, how could they make how many hundred cars a day that they make without having a team? It's important for
Right.
them to have a team.
Right.
An adoption agency, they have a team. Everybody has their roles, but it's when we
Right.
start being tribal and focusing on the other people's faults and our own defending ourselves. Yeah, that's a I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but I think last in 2019, I think I mentioned before I was really obsessed with Frederick Douglass. Like I was just always reading Frederick Douglass, and in one of his essays at the end, he made a statement just like you said. There is he said the most important thing here is humanity. It's the humanity that's the basis for all rights. It's a humanity is the basis for a society with peace in the future. It's it's when you look at me, you should see a man. You should see humanity, and I think that's really the most important thing that we
Right.
should be focusing on about people all around us, and just say this is a person. They disagree with me about some things, but this is a human. This is a fellow
Right.
citizen, or maybe not even a fellow citizen, just um, uh, is a fellow human, and we need to have compassion and listen to the person. And it's okay to disagree, but as long as we have compassion for these people and are able to listen.
Right. No, I totally agree. I think within the framework of living beyond your label, I have a practice, and there is a step of when you were talking about teams, there's there's five steps, and so I'll go through the five steps really quickly. It is awareness, being aware of what label is showing up for you, and it's just an awareness. Sometimes I believe that we are just not aware how we're showing up because our labels are so our identities. That's what a label means. Our
Mhm.
labels are so connected. We're so connected to it that sometimes we don't even see ourselves within it. So just being aware, having an appreciation, of that label. So what are the benefits of this, and just kind of just really doing that, and then own it and say, yes, I am. I accept this label. I own this label. This is a part, of me and how I'm showing up. And then be willing to do what I think is a difficult part is just to let it go. And just kind of, let it go and say that I am my label and I'm not my label. At the same time. And then the last step is just having acceptance, and just accepting with that decision, and so because I think that brings a level of peace and a knowing that even without that label in the forefront, I my who I am truly, what I would say, as Dr. Seuss says, the youer than you, you is running the show. I think going back to what you were saying about the difficulty in not being able to change your mind because
Mm,
of somebody that you usually don't
mhm,
don't agree with. It's really, I think your listening changed. So what I believe, and maybe this is the truth or not, is that you didn't change because of that other person that you agree with. You just had a different listening because there was an agreement with that person. So because sometimes when people we don't agree with, or we don't like, or everything, we don't even have a listening for what they're saying. So they can't even, they could say the sky is blue, but it's
mhm,
like, and I think, because I don't like you, because I don't know you or respect you, I don't care what you say.
mhm,
It's not the, it's not the truth, even
mhm,
if they're speaking the truth.
mhm, mhm,
And so, because that there was a likability, because there was an understanding, you had a listening for, whoa, wait a second. Do I really believe this? Can I do this? And it was like, yes, I can. Because it
mhm,
had nothing to do with the label. It more is, how am I going to listen? What am I open to listen to? And I
mhm,
think that's the good news and the bad news. Sometimes, because we're so connected to our labels, and we're so, in that togetherness with us, we can have agreement with our label saying crazy things, and and we're just like, we're all in, and then it's like, where the heck did this, how did we get here? We started out in peace and love, and now we're like,
mhm, mhm,
burning down this house. Where did
mhm,
that come from? But it is that type of always agreement and always understanding. So, we could talk about this for hours, because I think that we are designed to come together, to
mhm.
be connected. But I'm sure that there's a number of things that need your attention for today. What is the
Well,
one thing that you would like to close with, to kind of wrap this conversation up for everyone?
one thing before I wrap up with my personal thought, I
Okay.
wanted to know, you've produced a few books and other products. What kinds of things have you published so far? I'd just like to refresh my memory. You have the cards; those are out now,
Right.
and
Right. I have the U cards. Thank you very much. My wife and my publisher would appreciate you trying to give me a plug here, and I really appreciate that. Yes, the U cards, are out and available at imwilliambrown.com. The two children's books that I've written is Beyond the Shell. The first one is Finding You Beyond What Protects You.
mm,
And the second one is The Journey to Stay You. And
mm,
within those books, it is really about looking at, who you are, what makes
mm,
you
mhm.
you,
Yeah.
and just the more that, I believe the shell. I use the analogy of the shell versus labels for kids because kids like turtles, right? Type
Hmm.
of thing. And sometimes in my life that I have seen that the shell, the labels that is designed to
Uh,
protect me from
hmm.
myself and protect me from others
Hmm.
is keeping me away from myself and
Oh yeah,
others.
yeah.
And so being able to go beyond my shell,
Hmm.
then I could have access to not only myself, but to other people and the
Hmm.
world and other opportunities. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
what's happening in those books.
yeah.
And once you understand yourself or have an understanding of yourself, you will be constantly reminded that you're not that, and
Hmm.
so that's why there's a journey to stay you,
Hmm.
type of
Oh.
thing within that. And so I invite people to use the U cards and also the U journal to kind of just have that a daily conversation with themselves and just to kind of see how they're showing up, not to
Hmm.
make any judgments. I think I have a meditation practice. A lot of people do, but sometimes within that, I don't ask, how am I feeling? What's
Hmm.
going on with me today?
Hmm.
And I think that's what the cards and the journals are all
Hmm.
about. So
Cool.
thank you for
Yeah. Work
allow me to have that little quick commercial.
Working on anything in the near future?
Yeah, in the near future, I am working on Living Beyond Our Labels, the non-children's book,
Okay.
and just talk about the practice and share stories on that. And working beyond your labels is talking about how we show up in our work,
Okay.
and just stories of that. So looking at the labels that show up at work and don't show up at work and how we
Hmm.
relate to each other and
Hmm.
kind of do. So those are two projects that I'm
Yeah.
working on,
Okay.
and there's a number of other coaching opportunities to come up with
Okay.
that. I mean, I
Well,
should hire you as my agent or something to
yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of get things out there. So I definitely appreciate that.
I'm I'm working on a book, but might not be relevant to a lot of people on this podcast. It's more technical, related to work. I'm putting together a guide on how to do website localization, how to translate a website, and that's been good.
Okay.
I'm working on a white paper that'll end up being a chapter, and hopefully get it to the printer later, or not printer, get it to the designer later today. But yeah, as
Okay.
far as our topic goes, it's been great having a friendship with you and talking all these times. And it's, yeah, just we're out and about, seeing a common humanity with people and having social togetherness, even if we're having physical distancing, that's what it's all about.
Right. No, I definitely appreciate it, and just really taking the opportunity to come together is worth it. So, if you have a couple minutes, I am going to put you back in the green room, and then I'll end the show, and then we'll
All right.
say proper goodbyes.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks, my friend.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think I hit it twice. I did hit it twice. Okay. But no, this was great. I really appreciate the I am really having trouble here. Um, the conversation and just really looking at what togetherness means and how it's showing up in our life. And I really would love you to share on the comments section on this video. What does together mean for you? How is it showing up in your life? What does social distancing, mean, and how is how is it helping you reframe together? Because I strongly believe that we are designed, created to come together, to figure this whole thing out together. And the more that we are willing to stretch ourselves, to really see and kind of talk out and work out how we come together, how we accomplish the things that are important to us, not just for our survival, but for our thriving. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This has been Disconnect to Connect, one word conversations. The world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Thank you.